Breaking news! Monday started off busy behind the scenes for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And man, I'm still so happy about last Saturday's victory. If you loved seeing the Steelers defeat the Jaguars, hit that like button. If possible, write something like, "Go Steelers! We're off to a good start." Now, next Saturday we'll face the Bucs, and I'm confident the Steelers will win. Now, I need to talk to you about something important. Let's get straight to it. After watching the All-22 film from the Steelers' preseason opener against the Jaguars, the storylines are even juicier than they looked live. First off, Roman Wilson wasted no time making an impression. On the very first offensive play for Pittsburgh, he snagged a crisp 19-yard reception on a route that showcased both his route-running precision and his ability to handle one of the league's most physical corners, Tyson Campbell. This wasn't a soft matchup. Campbell has a reputation for muscling receivers off their spots, but Wilson stemmed vertical, cut hard, and created separation with authority. That's exactly what fans have been eager to see from a guy many believe could become the Steelers' number 2 receiver this season. His day wasn't limited to that one highlight either. He also looked sharp on a screen pass and carried over his strong training camp momentum into the game. The offensive line, often a topic of debate in Pittsburgh, delivered exactly what you'd hope for in the passing game. Zach Frazier, Mason McCormick, Troy Fautanu, Broderick Jones, and even depth option Spencer Anderson all showed composure and strength against Jacksonville's first-team pass rush. We're talking about Mason Rudolph having so much time in the pocket that even on his sack, he held the ball for around 8 seconds before going down. That's a testament to the unit's performance, especially against established rushers like Josh Allen and Trayvon Walker. And speaking of protection, Darnell Washington wasn't just catching touchdowns, though he did exactly that. He was manhandling defenders as a blocker. When used in pass protection, he was stonewalling rushers like a 6th offensive lineman, and when asked to move bodies in the run game, he did so with force. His touchdown grab was contested, but his focus and hands made it look effortless. Washington is shaping up to be the ideal red zone weapon and blocking presence, and his performance in camp and this opener reinforces that role. Now, while the run game didn't explode statistically, there's more to the story. With only 2 rushing attempts alongside the first-team line, Caleb Johnson didn't have the volume to show off much, but his most memorable play, stiff-arming Travis Hunter into the turf, was a reminder of his power. Yes, there were some vision hiccups, but much of the criticism about his performance ignores the fact that the backup offensive line wasn't giving him much to work with. Johnson actually racked up more yards after contact than his total rushing yards, a clear sign he was fighting through defenders rather than being carried by blocking. On defense, Y.A. Black's limited snaps raised eyebrows, just 10 on the night. But when he was on the field, he looked like a relentless run defender with a non-stop motor. Why his workload was so light is still a mystery, whether it's about preserving him or easing him in, but the flashes were there. The pass rush as a whole, however, left a lot to be desired. The likes of Jack Sawyer, Keanu Benton, and DeMarvin Leal couldn't consistently get home. In fact, Leal's night was so quiet that it's fair to wonder if his roster spot is in jeopardy. The effort wasn't lacking, but the impact simply wasn't there, and with roster cuts looming, every rep counts. These early preseason matchups are about more than the scoreboard. They're about momentum, evaluation, and setting the tone for the season. What we saw against Jacksonville was a mix of encouraging signs and red flags that demand attention. Some players are solidifying their spots, others are teetering on the edge, and as always, the margins in the NFL are razor thin. So here's the question, Steelers Nation, after seeing the early sparks from guys like Roman Wilson and Darnell Washington, but also noticing the defensive pass rush struggles, what's your biggest takeaway? And let's keep going, because there's a lot more to unpack from that film session, and some of it could have big implications as the Steelers move through this preseason stretch. One thing that really stood out once you dive deeper into the All-22 is just how calculated the coaching staff was in giving certain players extended opportunities, while keeping others on a short leash. That brings us right back to Y.A. Black. 10 snaps, that's all he saw, but within those 10 snaps, the tape shows a player who fires off the ball with urgency, plays with leverage, and doesn't quit until the whistle blows. It makes you wonder if this limited usage was more about keeping him under wraps than any sort of performance concern. After all, Mike Tomlin didn't list him on any injury report, and there's been consistent buzz from practice about his disruptive potential. The defensive line rotation in Pittsburgh is deep, but when you've got a rookie who looks that comfortable against NFL linemen, it's going to be hard to justify keeping him in the shadows for long. On the flip side, the pass rush unit left something to be desired, not just in terms of sacks, but in applying consistent heat on the quarterback. This wasn't about effort. Guys like Jack Sawyer were clearly playing hard, but the production wasn't matching the energy. Sawyer flashed in moments, showing that high motor style he's known for, but never really had that game-wrecking moment you want to see in a preseason opener. Derek Harmon, to his credit, was responsible for the pressure that led to an interception, though it was nullified, but even with that, you expected him to be more of a problem against Jacksonville's backup offensive line later in the game. And then there's Keanu Benton, who will be a starter when the real games begin. Benton's night was quiet, too quiet. In the trenches, sometimes the stat sheet doesn't tell the story, but the film here doesn't exactly show a disruptive presence. That's worth keeping an eye on, especially as the Steelers prepare for joint practices where Benton will face a very different set of blockers. Now, the real head-scratcher might be DeMarvin Leal. This was a player with a golden opportunity to show he belongs on the 53-man roster, and instead, he faded into the background for nearly the entire game. When you're out there for 4 quarters and your name barely comes up in the discussion, that's a problem. The coaching staff will say all the right things for now, but the reality is that roster spots aren't handed out based on past potential. They're earned in moments like this. And Leal needs a major turnaround in the next couple of weeks to avoid becoming a cut casualty or at best a practice squad stash. Offensively, one thing that deserves more attention is how Mason Rudolph operated behind that impressive pass protection. With time to throw, Rudolph was able to go through full progressions, and that's something the coaching staff will note when comparing quarterback performances. His chemistry with Roman Wilson on that first completion didn't happen by accident. It's the product of repetition in camp and trust in the timing of routes. Even the incompletion to Caleb Johnson, yes, the drop, was the right read, hitting the check down against coverage. Speaking of Johnson, his role could quietly grow if he can clean up some of those vision lapses. When you're producing more yards after contact than total yards in a game, that's both a testament to your toughness and a sign that you're being forced to create on your own too often. With a better blocking front, those same runs could be chunk gains instead of scrappy 2 or 3 yarders. The staff knows that, and it wouldn't be surprising if we see more early down reps for him alongside the starters in the next preseason outing to get a better evaluation. Another under-the-radar positive from this game was how the offensive scheme leaned into versatility. The Steelers didn't just keep Darnell Washington in as a blocker, they let him leak into passing lanes, creating mismatches in the red zone. That touchdown wasn't just about his size, it was about timing, positioning, and making himself a reliable target in tight spaces. This is the kind of layered role that can make him one of the most valuable chess pieces in Matt Canada's system, especially in situations where Pittsburgh needs to dictate matchups. Looking ahead, the joint practices with Tampa Bay later this week could be the most telling part of the preseason. Aaron Rodgers himself pointed out how valuable those sessions can be for quarterbacks. Seeing a completely different defensive scheme forces sharper reads and quicker decisions. For the Steelers, it's also a chance to test the pass protection and defensive front against unfamiliar competition before the next preseason game at Acrisure Stadium. If the issues with the pass rush linger during those joint sessions, we'll know this isn't just a one-game blip, it's a genuine concern heading into the season. If you're ready for every twist and turn in this preseason battle, make sure you're subscribed, hit that like button, and keep it locked here for more breaking updates. We've got plenty more Steelers news coming your way, and you won't want to miss a second of it.